Hi, I'm Beena Patel, a physician associate turned spiritual mentor, quantum healer, women's coach, and speaker. Welcome to The Voice That Sees. This podcast is an intimate dialogue on topics ranging from science and spirituality to alternative forms of healing, vulnerable storytelling, the esoteric ancient wisdom, the power of individual transformation, and how it impacts the collective evolution of humanity. Each episode, you will learn how to evolve by shifting your mindset and ways of being, express your vulnerability to heal and transform, and channel your emotions into self-expression, creating a greater impact in the world. Let's continue your journey together. Welcome back to another episode of The Voice That Sees. Today, I'm sharing about a lot of the different lessons that were learned in 2025, as well as the wisdom that was extracted and keeps deepening over time. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of these pearls from a more empowering place, especially for anyone who might be still moving through similar experiences or just wants to hear what it's like to come out on the other side of this transformation. So last year, I did share in a previous episode that I broke a cycle of narcissistic abuse. And I want to share why the weight of that cycle and having broken it and ended it for good, why that was such a big deal for me. I have literally noticed different patterns and cycles of abuse in my life with former relationships, also job environments. And I'm not saying that everyone in my life is a narcissist. That's not accurate. What I'm saying is that I've been on the receiving end of abuse for a lot of my life up until last year. And even though that cycle was broken, right now where I've been in is this phase of now understanding who am I? Who am I truly? Outside of all these stories and narratives and conditioning that were kind of just placed on me from birth, things I wouldn't have known how to transform, how to heal, or that I even needed healing at that time in my life. So I'm learning, first and foremost, to be really tender and compassionate with myself. As all the unraveling happened, things are still unraveling, and I'm still discovering more of who I truly am, my infinite potential, and what my purpose and my mission is on this planet. So, having said that, I know that this story is not some story that only one or two people have. It's actually quite a common story, which makes it kind of sad. And it also shows our shared humanity in all of it as well. So, when I talk about being on the receiving end of abuse, I'm talking about perhaps maybe you can relate to this, having known addicts earlier on in your life. And I share this with compassion. I know it's a sensitive topic for people who struggle with addiction. I have to speak to my experience, however, being on the receiving end of a lot of the neglect that was experienced in childhood, not just among caregivers, but also noticing this with certain teachers, other people that would meet in religious places, temples, churches. So there was a pattern there. And so during my childhood, I did pick up on a lot of evidence of neglect and almost thinking that that was normal because a lot of adults in my life were constantly moving through their own experiences. And sometimes they were there for me, other times they weren't. And again, as a child, how can we really understand that this is not a healthy, normal pattern? So I've been in this phase of learning to share a lot of compassion for myself and also a lot of forgiveness. There's been a lot of heart healing and understanding that I can share this compassion with the same people that I may have felt hurt by. And also this whole rewiring of my sacred masculine to understand in some places enough is enough. And sometimes the boundary is not just saying, no, I'm not available for this. It's also walking away, especially in certain dynamics where people can't handle the no. They don't respect the no for whatever reason. They might think that's an invitation to press a little bit more and see how far they can push. That's even more of a lesson for anyone who might be experiencing this, for you to make sure that no is firm. And also sometimes you might just have to go no contact and just withdraw your energy from those places and remind yourself that you matter too. And it's worth putting that beautiful energy that you're so used to giving out back into yourself. Because if you can't take care of yourself first, how can you provide care for anyone else? This can be a hard lesson, though, for many people who grew up in certain dynamics Or maybe caregiver was assigned to you as a role earlier on in life for whatever reason. Maybe you were in school and you just noticed people came to you with all their problems. Maybe when you were a child, you were there for your caregivers more than they were there for you. Maybe you just picked up on that role that you needed to be there for people. And again, I know this story is going to speak to many different people out there. This story is not common to just my experience alone. So if you picked up on certain things like that, maybe you noticed patterns later on in life where you attracted a lot of abusive dynamics, abusive relationships, maybe even narcissists, or people who were just emotionally unavailable and just came in when it was convenient for them and then dipped out. And maybe that pattern became normalized over time. And when that pattern is normalized, what I mean by that is that it's not normal to have that pattern. It's that the pattern has become something that the body feels safe with. It feels safe with unavailability. It feels safe with people coming in and leaving at their own convenience. It feels safe with abusive dynamics. And I know this one sounds mind-boggling, but if you've ever heard stories of people who keep going back to their abuser and you're like, but why? They know better. Everyone's trying to help them. Why? So the first thing I noticed was that with narcissism, if that pattern has been ingrained, that cycle is actually kind of hard to break. It's not impossible, but it's hard to break. So I was doing all the things. I was receiving support from shamans in Inca medicine school in Peru, as well as the Bribri tribe here in Talamanca, Costa Rica. And all of it was beneficial. Shamans are very highly skilled at helping us heal and release any energetic blockages, anything that needs cleansing in the spirit and the soul. I am so grateful for what they helped unlock in me. And it's not enough to just heal energy, because I'm finding, and I've had this conversation with many different people, that if we're multidimensional beings, is the root cause just one thing, or is it multidimensional? Which means it can be something that's affecting us on many different levels. And so the thinking would be, and again, I don't really have an answer to this. It's more of a question that I'm opening up. If we are multidimensional beings, how can the root be just any one thing? And a lot of times when we hear, oh, to clear something, you have to clear at the root of energy. But what I'm finding is that, and I love energy healing, I'm a Reiki healer myself, but what I've found is that for some things, I actually need to go a little bit farther and go into soul healing. I mean deep soul healing, soul retrieval, which is a process in which this shaman literally helps the person retrieve any fragmentation of the soul, sometimes known as dissociation in mental health, where if someone had undergone a lot of trauma in a certain area, then the person may have dissociated from their current day reality because they're still operating in what happened during that period of their trauma. And so in order to heal, they need to go through whatever process they need to go through to come back into the present moment and realize that part of their life, that period, that memory, it might still exist in the mind, but that's not actually what's happening in today's reality. They need to find ways of processing that on a mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, all of it, all of these different layers in order to come back into the present day moment and realize there can be this possibility of a new, more empowering story in this present day moment. I share this because that's also synonymous. It's not the same thing, but it's also synonymous to something called soul fragmentation, which in shamanism is believed to be this occurrence that happens when a person has gone through a traumatic event and the soul is left behind in that event. And so even though they're moving around in their life and they're going about their daily activities, it's not coming from this place of wholeness, which is why they might still replay some of those events in different people. And you might relate to this. Maybe you ended a relationship with one person that perhaps you were being abused by, and meanwhile, you're in another relationship with someone that you also feel similar dynamics. It's just a different face. And what that can often mean is that the identity needs to shift. Your identity needs to shift into one that is operating from healthy patterns, from a place of realizing, okay, that is actually abnormal, and I'm now normalizing a healthier pattern with healthy relationships and honoring that my entire vessel gets to be transformed in this moment to receive healthier loving relationships, people who show up for me, people who show up for me consistently, and it feels good for them to do so because they want to. And also my heart being able to receive that beautifully and know that it's normal. Because if your heart doesn't feel that it's safe to receive that, the nervous system doesn't feel safe to receive that because it's normalized abusive dynamics, then you might receive something that's really beautiful, but then self-sabotage. So the next question is probably, well, how would you know? How would you know when to let something go, or if you're coming up against a block and resistance? From what I've uncovered in my journey so far is that when it's truly a person that respects your time, your energy, your boundaries, and understands your sacred yes, your sacred no, it feels good and it brings more peace into your life. You're not depending on that connection, that person for peace. That's our own inner work to do, right? But you feel more peace in your life. That's the way I would explain it. And where there is wishy-washy energy, where there's confusion, where you might be setting boundaries and it's not being respected, or the person thinks that's an invitation to try harder, perhaps it could be their own journey of not being able to sit with rejection. And again, people are moving through their own experiences, so we can be compassionate, but that does not mean you have to erase yourself or that you have to erase your needs or not use discernment because someone else is going through their own challenges. In fact, it's part of sovereignty and agency to say, I am in charge of my energy and I'm the master of my energy and I'm not available for this, with love, and I'm not available for this. And the more that you bring that beautiful energy back into yourself, your power, calling it back, that's really it. You're calling your power back to you. The more that you do that, you realize you are a sovereign being. And even though there have been these cycles of abuse before, you have the power to end them. You do have the power to close those cycles and start inviting in healthier, more loving connections. And it's just going to take some time, because a lot of times when you're closing out cycles, especially cycles that could have been generational, cycles that were culturally accepted or approved, passed on, and they were held onto within the family, the lineage, those are hard to break through. And when you break them, it's not like your life is just like, oh yeah, it's all perfect now. It's as though you're really recovering. You're in this period of recovery where you're trying to understand, okay, well, who are you underneath all of these layers of conditioning that just got released? Now, who are you? And as you start rising into more of your infinite potential, stuff comes up, emotions come up to be released. Certain times, people will still try to project those former expectations on you, even though you've already shed old identities. And in those places where you're still moving through the void, having released the old identity and now moving into the new one, but not completely locked into the new identity, you have to understand people can still do certain things. They can still project. You can't control people's responses or reactions. The only thing you can control is how you respond to people. And sometimes I'm still finding this to be true in my life. Sometimes it's going no contact, because when people don't understand a no is a no, you just kind of have to let that go with love, because it's on them. Especially when you made your boundaries known and clear, that you need space, that you're moving through your own stuff, and that you can't really hold space for what other people are moving through. It's not selfish, especially for a lot of caregivers, mothers, people who have just been prone to giving care, even clinicians. This is a huge reclamation, because it says, I see that you're moving through something, but right now I'm in this phase of tuning into my own needs and my boundaries. And I don't really have space to hold for other people and the heavy stuff that they're processing. And that isn't selfish. In fact, it's self-love, it's self-care. And without being full to the brim and overflowing in our own lives, it's like we give from this place of depletion, and then you might find yourself being resentful or being angry. And even though those emotions can come up from time to time in life, the reality is, if you're feeling chronically angry, it's time to honor your boundaries. You have to set boundaries, you have to honor them too. And when you honor your boundaries, again, I do want to remind you of this, because for anyone who may have experienced or is experiencing abuse, or just any dynamics that are unhealthy, maybe there are people in your life that are trying to control you. This can happen. I found this several times in my life, that control is something we all experience. It's part of the human journey. A large part of the human journey is learning to surrender and let go of what is not ours to take care of, to rely on our faith, to surrender to a higher power. But it's a journey. It's not like, oh, I release, control, I surrender, and then it just happens. For many of us, it does take a little bit of effort. It's not giving up, it's giving in. And that actually takes a lot of courage and power to do, especially in a world that will teach us to do more, to try harder, to transform. It's like at some point you gotta let it go. So I share this because when you're truly surrendering, you're allowing that energy of divine love to flow through you. And for people who don't necessarily feel that within themselves, they might try harder to grab onto you. This is how codependency and codependent dynamics begin. And you might be fueling into it by thinking that your self-worth is tied to how much you provide, how much you offer, how much you do for people. And the dynamics only change when you literally cut those cords, release them, draw that energy back to you, and just shine that light for other people to see. This light is also available within you. And connections are necessary. We do need to have healthy interpersonal connections and relations with people. And again, when you're shifting out of codependent dynamics into healthy relationships, it can take some time, meaning you might go through a phase where it's like, okay, you've cleared the space. Now what? You're welcoming in the new, healthier, loving connections that feel reciprocal and are mutually respectful and honor both people's boundaries. As you're making space for that, there's a part of the journey where you literally have to hold yourself in the discomfort of having destroyed what no longer serves you. Maybe destroyed is not the right word, but having those illusions come undone and then allowing the healthier, loving connections come in as you integrate and embody this new, healthier version of you. And the more that you can sit with the discomfort, including some of the challenging emotions such as anger, grief, sorrow, loneliness, if you can sit with that, you will feel more of your power. And sometimes you may need to check in with someone, whether it's therapy or some other form of professional help that can help you on your path. And that's okay too. It definitely has value. And eventually you have to realize that this power is within you. And ultimately you do have to take appropriate, aligned action steps to make positive changes in your life. So going back to the example of the shamans helping me, I'm incredibly grateful for what they did. And ultimately I had to say no and walk away from what I am going to boldly declare as the last toxic job environment that I ever allowed myself to be a part of. And once I said no, which wasn't easy, it didn't feel good to say no, but it felt right. And I knew it was necessary. And once I did that, there was this surge of power that moved through me. And it's like, okay, that was an attachment. I thought I needed that. I thought that gave me security, but it didn't. It was re-traumatizing me. And it was just bringing up the same patterns that were coming up for healing. And I say re-traumatizing because I'm moving into this new shift in my life. And I also think it's part of the new paradigm where we don't need to go through traumatic experiences over and over to heal and to transform. I think that's old paradigm. I think of the new paradigm, we can heal through more joy, more peace, more vulnerable conversations that might still bring up challenging things. And yet it can be held in the space of love and tenderness and lots of beautiful compassion. The amount of compassion I have been feeling for myself over the last few months as certain things have unraveled and feeling the power and courage that I've had as I boldly walked through this transformation portal on the other side. And I'm still uncovering and walking into the other side. But as I'm leading into this other side and being in this powerful rebirth, is what I would like to call it. It has been a beautiful portal of rebirth for me. It's noting that, okay, I am powerful, and it's not just on a mental level. I can absolutely feel it in my body. And whereas before I felt shame around being powerful, where I felt shame around taking the power back and understanding I do have this ability to shift my story to something more incredible, more amazing, more empowering, that now I actually feel this is my divine birthright. Of course, I am capable enough of co-creating with God. I believe strongly in God walking this walk with me. Of course, I'm powerful enough to recreate a brand new story in my life and that I have sovereignty and agency to do that. This is not a story that's unreasonable. A lot of it is a story where it's going from survival to knowing that it is my birthright to ultimately thrive in my life just as much as anyone else. I matter, you matter, we matter, the collective matters, and we all get to be wealthy. We all get to thrive, and we all get to live abundant, fulfilling lives full of incredible amounts of peace, joy, happiness, abundance, success, massive amounts of success, because this is an abundant multiverse. And if this same creator, our God, created the multiverse, trillions of stars, galaxies, stars that we won't even see in this lifetime, then of course it would be our birthright to live abundant lives in the here and now. And as I'm expressing that, what I feel is that this is part of the new story. This is the new story that I've been calling in for myself, and I'm sharing for anyone who also feels like, yes, I'm ready for this. Truly, I'm ready for this. And I share this because for many of us who got used to some of those abusive dynamics, a lot of it was because of scarcity programming, lack programming. Again, these got passed on. And I also feel that it was a wound that may have been ingrained into humanity. This is my personal perspective. It's something that I sat with a lot last year, which is this question of what if this wound of inadequacy was actually built in to humanity. Not necessarily the shame part, but inadequacy, feeling not enough and feeling like you have to do more. This lack and scarcity that people of all different phases and seasons of their lives can move through. It's not something that just any one person partakes in. So I asked myself, what if that was actually built into humanity so that there would be a part of us that depended on our faith, depended on a higher power, and kind of sense that we can't do this all alone. We have to surrender. And in doing that, it wasn't an act of weakness, but more so an act of courage, being able to say, I release all this. I release the pride of thinking that I know better than you, that I know better than you, God, because I don't. And in releasing all of that, we can actually surrender to God's will and this bigger plan that tends to unfold. I know it certainly has unfolded in bigger ways that I could have imagined for me. And when we do that, we actually get to experience and feel that divine love within us. It's really interesting because I don't want to say that you need to go through these ego deaths and feel such massive identity shifts and emotional release to get there. But sometimes it requires total surrender. It's like you really have to be willing to release the pride, to release this idea that you think you know the way, release the control, and then also release thinking that you need to control and micromanage other people and outcomes. You really need to release. And when you release, you come back into a space of divine love. And that divine love is so healing and so nurturing that when you feel that, you feel like you're flowing with this overflow and this overflow of compassion, of mercy, of joy for no reason, joy and peace for no reason. You just feel it because you know you're worthy of feeling joy and peace just as you are. You are worthy of being amazingly healthy and well, just as you are. That you're worthy of having massive success in your life and abundance in your life. That is your birthright because it's already existing within you. And I share this from this place of so many revelations coming forth and so much creative inspiration that all happened when I broke that cycle, because ultimately what you're clearing out is attachments to unhealthy soul ties, and also moving through soul contracts that you may have signed up for to help learn the lessons that you needed to learn so that you can step into your highest potential. Now, again, I do not want to endorse that anyone needs to be abused in order to step into the highest potential, but I'm starting to learn from a spiritual perspective that sometimes we may have signed up for some of these things and had these soul contracts with people because they also are our teachers. I know sometimes we think of our teachers as the ones who just help us radiate our light just like that, and they feel good to be around. We're like, we love you. And those are beautiful teachers too, and they're absolutely welcome in our lives. And also some of the most powerful teachers are the ones who teach us the power of forgiveness, the power of acceptance, the power of self-love, the power of boundaries, the power of choosing ourselves first and foremost. That is absolutely necessary, not optional, but necessary in order to really be able to offer our services, our gifts, our wisdom from a place of overflow, essentially. So these are all the things that have been deepening. And coming out on the other side, I feel the sense of balancing within myself, more harmony. And there's still things that are dancing and integrating. And I just felt this was the right time to share this because we are stepping into the new paradigm. It feels so palpable. It feels, just look around at all the things that are happening on this global scale. It's hard to ignore that the world is going through rapid shifts. Earth, Gaia, she's going through rapid shifts. Humanity is going through rapid shifts. We have this big rise in AI, and I have so many thoughts I can share with it about it. And what I will share is that right now is an interesting time where we're learning to partner and work together with the right people, the right connections, the right partnerships. And it's important to realize, even more than ever, that we hold personal power. And the more that you understand that you don't have to give in to every person who tries to push past your boundary, that you don't have to let a trigger completely consume your day and your life, that is power. Because you're saying to yourself, I matter. I know this person matters. Also, I matter. And I don't have to lose myself in this moment by responding in ways that I previously responded, which actually gives fuel and ammunition to these certain dynamics and relationships that no longer serve my happiest good and my highest well-being. And the more that I take ownership that I am worthy because I exist, simply because I exist, I matter too, I belong, and that I belong on this planet, that I have gifts and talents worth sharing, worth being compensated, worth being valued, that I can respect people. I can show up in a way that honors whatever they're moving through. And in no way does that require me self-abandoning myself or erasing myself in any way to help this person. And so if you're noticing a pattern of people raising themselves up by putting you down or dumping everything on you, chances are you need to uphold better boundaries. Some of these can be energetic boundaries, it can be mental boundaries, it can be emotional boundaries, also verbal communication. And that's where you also get to take a stand for your voice and speak your truth. And it is a journey. It's a journey of unlearning what no longer serves you and now learning what is healthy and what truly serves your well-being. And over time, it becomes easier. Over time, you stop feeling guilty for expressing yourself, for saying what you need to say, and learning that having healthy boundaries is not a form of trying to shut people out. Although sometimes you might need to go, again, silent contact and just say enough is enough, because some people don't get it. And that's their part of their journey to move through. You get to call your energy back to you and rise and shine and illuminate your light in the way that's meant to shine. So how did all of this impact self-expression? Well, narcissists, what I have found, are not good communicators. They do not tend to be good communicators, and they also lack empathy. Just because someone doesn't communicate well doesn't necessarily make them a narcissist. I want to make that clear. However, what I found to be true with a lot of narcissists that I've come across is that they lack empathy. And when they communicate, even when they try to show empathy, it's a performative empathy. It's like, yeah, I see you, but you don't feel anything. And the behavior doesn't change. That's how you can tell a lot of times where change isn't actually happening. You can't force anyone to change, right? A lot of times when you are asking for a boundary to be met, you're not trying to micromanage another person, be like, oh, this is what I need from you. It's not about that. Boundaries are, if it's an example I can give, it's something like when I'm being spoken to in a certain way, when the communication is urgent, I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable because I need space. I need space to gather my feelings and what I think and what I'm processing and then respond. And this is a great way, by the way, to weed out love bombers. Anyone who is trying to just love bomb because they don't want to face their own shadows or they don't want to look within, this is a great tip for you. This is a great way to state, this makes me uncomfortable and I'm going to pull my energy back here. And again, I know people are moving through their own experiences, but this has been a powerful season of me saying, okay, just because people are moving through their own experiences doesn't mean that my compassion is a resource for everyone under the sun. My compassion needs to be a resource for myself first and foremost, and then I can intentionally choose and direct where that compassion goes. Because chances are, if you're constantly giving that energy to narcissistic abuse or addicts even, a lot of times that energy goes nowhere. It's a hard lesson to learn, but that energy goes nowhere. It's like it's going into a black hole. And the part where you get to take your energy back is why? Why do you keep giving your energy to those places? What is it bringing you? What do you think it makes you feel to constantly give your energy in places where you're not receiving? And what you might learn, what I learned on my journey. And I'm not saying this is ultimately what it is, but maybe this might resonate for some people. I carried this deep wound around needing validation externally, and not just externally, but from men. And I projected that wound onto many men who I thought, again, it was a projection, so it doesn't mean it's true. I would project this feeling of, oh, I have to be like this person. They're successful, wanting their attention and approval because I thought they hold a certain level of success. They have that kind of attitude that a successful person carries. And the more that, again, I feel like some of this was unplanned because I walked last year with God in so much solitude. I truly felt, because I relate to God as the masculine, I feel that there was a deep healing and transformation of my sacred masculine. And I learned that that energy of control and, a lot of these systems and leadership that have been traditionally modeled as successful, but are actually narcissists running the show, they're not actually doing good for the planet. And so I had to confront that shadow within me of, why am I projecting that I think this person's so successful? Why am I assuming that I know what goes on behind the scenes? Are they truly successful? And not putting them down, but just trying to understand that these are all just delusions, distortions, and fantasies that I've had. And so when I started doing some of the deeper work and also going back to therapy and letting myself be held and supported, I realized that a lot of this was just illusions. And as I started stripping them and showing myself the same compassion that I was so used to giving to other people, my sacred masculine energy started to become integrated in a very beautiful way. And my go-getter energy came out. My ambitious energy came out. It's like, okay, we have the potential to be incredibly successful in the ways that feel aligned for me according to God's will, divine will. And part of that is also leaning into the dance of not needing to know all the steps. That's the part where faith comes in. It's like, okay, I do my part. I take the line action steps that feel good and feel right. And some of them also can feel challenging. And once I do that, it's like, okay, we do see shifts happening over time. And so, for instance, one of the things that transpired, I'm so grateful for, is that two of my poems, Extraordinary Women and My Prayer for Every Woman, got published in an anthology, Fifth Gal's Guide anthology. I will leave the link in the show notes for anyone who wants to order a copy for yourself. And this was a huge moment for me. And I know for many years I've written pieces, creative pieces, short stories, essays, taken creative writing classes, so many different things. And yet I didn't feel that I had what it takes to actually become a published author. And because of all this rewiring with my sacred masculine, instead of just feeling into this beautiful energy of the feminine, which I love, but in order to embody true wholeness, we need to feel both energies within in a safe, loving, balanced, harmonious way. And so I started taking little action steps. Even though I couldn't at one time see myself as a writer, I said, you know what? All it takes is a few action steps. Who can I reach out to? An agent, a publisher, little things, to a magazine, allowing my work to get out there. That journey did bring up a lot of emotions, with getting rejected from time to time. And when I say from time to time, I'm talking about like over 20 times. And with that comes a lot of emotions. And I also learned that by being there with the emotions, being present with them, processing them, letting them be released, I felt more powerful on the other side, because I learned to stop making the rejections mean something about me. It doesn't mean it still doesn't hurt if I were to get rejected. It means that even with some of those challenges, I'm still recognizing I'm powerful and I can move through that. And so I want to share this for anyone who's just holding themselves back and who might have felt, well, now what? Maybe you broke a cycle and it's like, now what? You can do the thing. You can do the thing. It will require a new version of you. It will require new action steps. It will require faith. And you are capable of doing those things. Just saying that as a reminder. And I'm going to pause with that because I know I shared a lot here. So instead of projecting, I learned to meet those projections because, again, we are humans and projection is a part of the journey. We're projecting in every moment, whether it's negative or positive. We're projecting our thoughts or our beliefs onto other people. I'm doing it here on the podcast. We're all doing it. And what I want to share with anyone who feels that it's resonant, obviously take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And I share the journey of having come this far, especially in my writing journey. And I feel like this is just the beginning of my beautiful and brilliant writing career. And I do feel bold and courageous enough to say that because this is the most natural God-given gift that has ever come to me. Speaking, writing, expressing, it's been so natural for me. And I can see how so much of wanting external validation before, I held on to some of these attachments because I wanted someone else's approval instead of learning that I can approve myself, that I can seek my own approval, that I can seek God's approval. I wanted people's approval so much to a point where I literally procrastinated for so long. And now I understand that that was part of my journey, so I'm not upset about it. I've moved through a lot of those emotions to get through that. I recognize that that too was part of the learning process and also the learning curve. And where I am now, I feel that it's just beautiful to be here. I feel like I'm also having a moment of gratitude of noticing how far I've come because that was such a journey. That was such a journey. So for anyone who feels like your expression is being toyed around with, or you notice gaslighting and manipulation and controlling tactics being used by people around you, again, I want to remind you, you can't control other people. You can only control your responses. And it's up to you to decide how you communicate your boundaries. Sometimes people might not know what they're doing. So I do believe in giving people a chance to explain themselves and also to share your heart, to share what's moving through you and what you need in your relationships. And remember that by giving people space, some people will rise to meet you where you need to be met. Other people will naturally fall away, and that's okay. They no longer serve your journey. Maybe they'll come back another time. And some people, especially in abusive dynamics, I believe that those connections need to be ended or kept at a distance, especially if there are certain relationships where you feel like you can't completely end it for whatever reason. Maybe you have a baby or a child with some person. Maybe it's some form of family that you feel like you just can't get away from. Distance is important. And sometimes making sure that distance is known and respected. And over time, things will gradually resolve on their own through the power of miracles and through the power of faith. And the more that you start speaking up, the more that you start expressing yourself, the more that you start putting your art out there, it is such a healing journey. Getting my creative works out there, putting my poetic musings and thoughts on an Instagram page. I'll also link that in the show notes. If you don't follow me, I do invite you to follow me on Instagram at Musings by Beena Patel and also the yoga movement. I've been sharing a lot of my self-expression and my poetic musings and things that I'm experiencing and literally transmuting and alchemizing into self-expression in real time. And it's been such an empowering journey because I'm being shown that I can literally walk through that fire every day and become stronger because of it. Instead of dissolving to feel like, okay, dissolving and then nothing, it's actually dissolving to remember more of my power. And it just goes to show that expression is a form of healing. It's not always, oh, you need to get to a certain place and then you start expressing. Actually, express yourself now. Because the more that you feel that love moving within you, you realize expression is just an extension of that love moving through you. And I know that sometimes in the process and journey of expansion, different things can happen, whether you feel stuck, there's stuck energy that you need to move through before you can start expanding even more. That's just part of life. And some of those challenges can come up, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be super hard challenges. In fact, a lot of times having one breakthrough, having a little bit of time to yourself in stillness, movement, speaking to a trusted source, being in nature, praying to God, it takes just little steps sometimes to realize that that breakthrough and that shift can happen pretty quickly, sometimes even instantly, because I do believe in the power of miracle consciousness. So once you start doing that, you realize actually the very thing that may have been controlled at one time, or you may have been told it's not welcome, or you were silenced, or your light ruffled so many people's feathers and they started projecting their anger on you. So you felt unsafe and you felt, okay, you got to stop doing this. Actually, no, let them project. That doesn't mean you don't show up. That means that you're doing something really powerful. And the more that you rise in your power, not trying to provoke people into projecting, but literally just shining your light, shining God's glory through you, which is your divine birthright, just as much as it is for other people. And again, it takes willpower and free will for people to decide if they're going to step into that. Not everyone wants to, and that's not your job to handle. Your job is to continue to shine your light, to shine your radiant God-given glory. And the more that you do that, the more that you express and share your art, it is so healing. It is so transformative because it's almost as though your self-expression is becoming embodied and you are becoming the art itself. And essentially, it's the energy of divine love moving through you and being rooted and grounded onto planet Earth through all of your different forms of expression, whether it's poetry, writing, speaking. It could even be building a beautiful venture. It could also be building a business, a brand. It could be building a beautiful, healthy, loving relationship and building a family, perhaps, if that's something you desire. It could also be building a beautiful community. It could be building a new, beautiful life for yourself. And I want to share this for anyone who needs this reminder. You are worthy and deserving of this too. You matter just as much as any person that you supported in your life. Even though I'm still moving through some of my own stuff, this has been a really celebratory time. My poems being published in an anthology after moving through what I went through just feels like a power reclamation for me, because not that I needed the proof, but it's physical proof that my expression matters and it's out there. It's out there in the world. It's out there in physical manifestation. It brings me great joy to share this with anyone who's listening and with anyone who might need that spark of hope. Just a reminder that this is possible for you too, in whatever way that looks like for you, that it's possible for you to live a happier, healthier, more beautiful life. With this new paradigm, I feel like there's a lot shifting and it could be bringing up a lot for people. And I'm noticing all the different dynamics that are also coming up, where there's been imbalance in leadership and power dynamics in different systems on the planet. And I have shared this vocally on the yoga movement, and I'm sharing it here too, because it's kind of hard to ignore. Even if you don't read the news, just feeling the energy, feeling collective consciousness, it's not easy to just pretend it's not there. So I feel called to share a prayer for all of us, because I feel like everyone is moving through something right now. And I also feel that there are beautiful new beginnings on the way for all of us as well. And so I do want to shed light on that. So I'll end this episode with a prayer. And I invite you, if you feel called to do so, to place one hand on the heart. And even if you don't believe in God, it could be spirit, could be source, could be consciousness, universe, whatever you feel is right for you. I believe, for me, I do believe in universe, consciousness. And right now I'm in this walk with God. And so I'm praying to God. God, I'm praying to you for all of us, for everyone who is listening to this episode of The Voice That Sees, anyone who is here and listening to this prayer. I pray that you bless us all with infinite miracles, infinite abundance, peace, and joy in our lives. I thank you for all that you have done in our lives. I know sometimes we just forget. I know sometimes we get trapped in the mind and forget that you've already given us so much to be thankful for. And I do share this because I know as I share this prayer, I know you're calling me out in a humble and loving way, because sometimes I do forget. So I'm sharing this for anyone who's also forgotten. Please help us see all the good that you've done in our lives, all the good that you continue to do in our lives. And during these changing times, I pray for more balance. I pray for more harmony on this planet. God, let there be more peace, more harmony, more balance for all beings on this planet. Redistribute the wealth, the power, the resources for everyone on this planet, so all of us get to experience spiritual abundance, material abundance in ways that are fulfilling and ways that are aligned with your will, God, because often you know what's best for us more than we know for ourselves. And we surrender that to you. We surrender the control. We release control. And we surrender to the supernatural miracles that only you can do in each and every one of our beautiful lives. God, I know this life is sacred. I thank you for the lessons that have been learned, the wisdom that has been extracted. And I pray, especially for anyone who has moved through so many seasons of challenges, let us have our season of celebrations too now, God. Let us have our seasons of balancing and harmonization within. Let us experience joy and peace and harmony as well, God. Let us experience the pure beauty and divine magic of this beautiful existence of our heaven on earth. God, I pray for many blessings, many miracles to unfold in the listener's life. I pray that all of this is done with total ease, grace, peace, and flow, that all of us can see when you have brought the goodness and miracles into our lives, and that we know that we are worthy to receive all these miracles in our lives in the here and now on earth as it is in heaven. God, thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen. Breathing that in and breathing out. I pray that you are able to receive that prayer wherever you are today. And again, that many miracles unfold in all of our beautiful lives, because this life is so sacred and so beautiful. And we truly are in this new era of anchoring and grounding and rooting our beautiful heaven on earth. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Voice That Sees, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Voice That Sees. Please be sure to check out more episodes every other Tuesday on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you listen to your podcast. For additional content, you can follow me on Instagram at The Yoga Movement and YouTube at The Yoga Movement NYC. You can also check out my coaching programs and unique offers on my website at theyogamovementnyc.com to help support your individual and personal transformation. Until next time, be you and be well.